inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror.
President Trump and millions of people across America and indeed across the world mourning conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Kirk was brutally assassinated during an appearance at Utah Valley University. Hello, I'm Jonathan Hunt. Good to be with you, Anita, on what is a dark, dark day.
It is indeed. It has been a terrible day. I'm Anita Vogel. Police say at this time no one is in custody, but they are searching for a new person of interest. The single fatal shot was apparently fired from a distance.
Came from here on campus, from a location at a third, potentially from a roof, yes. A longer distance shot from a roof.
So we want to take you back through what has been such a difficult day. You're looking here at Charlie Kirk shortly before the shot was fired. He's on the campus there of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. That's about 30 minutes or so drive south of Salt Lake City. This was the first event in what was being billed as the American Comeback Tour. Charlie had been throwing out baseball caps to some of the 3,000 or so people who had turned out to see him. And it was at that point, and we're not going to show you the shot itself for very obvious reasons, but it was at that point, about 20 minutes into this event, that we heard that shot ring out. It is very obvious on the video that is online right now. And then you see Charlie Kirk with his right hand grip the left side of his neck, and then there is a gush of blood. Then people start screaming, very obviously, absolutely terrified. And then we saw security officials, we believe they were security with Charlie Kirk's private security team, carrying him away, rushing him into an SUV and driving away, obviously, at high speed. Then the manhunt got underway, obviously. The suspect, as we now know, still at large at this hour, Anita, which is extraordinary. They arrested two people. We saw one elderly gentleman in one video who was arrested. He then was deemed not to have anything whatsoever to do with this incident. And then we got word from Kash Patel himself, the FBI director, that they had the subject in custody. And then they walked that back just a couple of hours later and said that person not connected either. So then we wait to see what comes next. There is obviously a major manhunt going on for this suspect or suspects, indeed, at this point.
Yes, and, you know, where to begin? So many questions. Is this suspect still in the state of Utah? I mean, there are all kinds of questions and so many different law enforcement agencies involved here. And indeed, the manhunt does continue.
This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
Local, state and federal law enforcement agents are urgently searching for whomever it was who killed Charlie Kirk. The manhunt obviously began the moment that Kirk was shot. Authorities say, as we were just talking about, the two persons of interest that they previously announced they had in custody were separately released after being questioned. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has a message for whomever carried out this terrible act.
To whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
For more on what law enforcement is doing at this hour, let's talk to our expert panel, former FBI Special Agent and CEO of the Brunner Sierra Group, Dan Brunner, and retired NYPD Lieutenant Joe Cardinale. Dan, let me come to you first. And I want to kind of look at this in chronological order. There are two questions I'd like to get your expertise on. First of all, the shot itself. We understand it was from about 200 yards away, the roof of a building that is on campus just behind the amphitheater that you can see in the video there. How good a rifleman do you have to be to make that shot and hit somebody in a spot where you are sure you are going to kill them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Your amateur shooter, someone who doesn't have training, it's going to be very difficult to fire off the round. It sounds like there was one round fired. So this is going to be something that someone who's trained at this, someone who's had a background in firearms, someone who's familiar with firearms, how to get the round off and how to aim for the head and or main body. So this is not an amateur shooter. This is most likely someone who's received training or has prepared for this event and in anticipation of this event and has practiced. And thus, there'll be a trail. They'll be able to find where he trained, where he was preparing for this, or if he received training in the military or in law enforcement.
But Dan, the other part of this, and taking it chronologically, as I said, then the getaway, he or she, we don't know at this point, but the shooter seems to have made a clean getaway for now, at least. And you look at where Orem is, Dan. If you move in one direction, you're up in the Provo Canyon and the Uinta Mountains within like 15, 20 minutes. You go in the other direction, you're on the 15 freeway, heading north or south, either towards Salt Lake or away from it. This could be very difficult if this person was good at what he did and had planned a getaway as well as the act itself. Then this could be a tough road for the FBI.
I think this is going to be a very difficult road. I mean, there's a lot of digital evidence that can be obtained. If you're walking around a college campus, there's going to be lots of cameras. There's going to be access badges that you have to do to get into certain buildings. This individual was on a roof, so he or she must have known how to access that roof using the badges or using falsified badges. So I think that this was definitely clearly premeditated, planned, and this individual had no intentions of getting captured or killed. So their preparation was highly anticipated, highly prepared for it. So I agree 100%. I think it's going to be exponentially difficult for the FBI to track him. But I've been involved in manhunts like this before when I was in New Jersey. There is going to be a trail. And at one point, this individual is going to make a mistake. And just like Luigi Mangione was captured when he made a mistake in the McDonald's, this shooter will make a mistake unless it's extremely well planned, extremely well prepared, and extremely well funded, which will then make it extremely difficult to catch this individual. But the FBI has a manhunt on their hands.
Joe, let me go ahead and bring you in here. And I want to talk about the security that was in place on the campus at the time. We heard in the news conference this afternoon from the police chief of the campus there, Jeffrey Long. He talked about having 6 officers there, along with some plain-clothed officers in the crowd. But he was very candid when he said that was not enough. Let's listen to what he had to say.
You know, we train for these things, and you think you have things covered, and these things, unfortunately, they happen. You try to get your bases covered, and unfortunately today we didn't.
He said they didn't have their bases covered. I mean, what's your take on what he said right there?
Well, Anita, I don't necessarily say that they didn't address it, but we're talking about and did he have an advanced team here? They only have a handful of officers to assist with the personal security that's traveling here. And we have to remember something that's very important with this case. As much as Charlie was, they wanted Charlie to come to this college, there were, a lot of people that protested against it and signed petitions. All right. So if this person was, generic to the area, as Dan said, maybe he was in ranges around there. But once again, this sounds like somebody who had a lot of knowledge of this campus, and also that, to get up in the position where this person was, had to know about getting to that roof. Was it a locked door? And also this person planned to get out of there through the chaos. So there's a lot of things that this person planned for, but yet the police can go in a reverse direction digitally and also through the internet and find out, where they are with this right now. But it's by no means, impossible. Difficult, yes, but impossible, no.
Yeah, a tough situation there. And, you know, Charlie Kirk, he wants to be engaging with the crowd there, but it's kind of a balance of, you know, how much security to provide. Thank you both so much for joining us and bringing you your insights. We really appreciate it. We want to go ahead right now and bring in Fox News correspondent Matt Finn. He is on the scene and has the latest there. Matt, what can you tell us?
Well, right now the campus is much more calm in comparison to the pandemonium and terror that ripped across this property just a few hours ago. And I want to show you a really morbid and somber scene. The white tent that Charlie Kirk was standing under or sitting under earlier today is still on the campus right now, behind some crime scene tape. There are law enforcement officers pacing back and forth, protecting the crime scene. But that tent, that now infamous white tent that was seen in so many videos, still standing at the center of campus right now. The campus is secure, but not necessarily closed. It is open. If people from the public wanted to get on here right now, they could. Most important information right now at this hour is the latest communication and updates we've had from law enforcement that the shooter is apparently still at large. 2 suspects were taken into custody earlier today, but both were released. The FBI is fully supporting and co-leading this investigation along with local law enforcement. The Utah Governor Spencer Cox calls today's shooting a political assassination. The FBI says the shooter was dressed in all dark clothing and potentially shot from a roof at a long distance, which eyewitness video seems to support. The Utah Valley police chief says that there were 6 police officers here on campus today working the event in addition to Charlie Kirk's personal security team. There were 3,000 people that packed in onto this campus to listen to and engage with Charlie Kirk, and here is one eyewitness.
So yeah, it was right when the question about gun violence was posed, and you just hear this pop, and you're like, what is going on? Is this real? And right away, you know, people started laying on the ground. Everyone started praying. That was one thing that we all just instinctively did. And then we started running. But in my head, I was looking right at Charlie, and you could just see his neck just bleeding. And so we didn't know, and we just ran and got out of there. But it was a blessing to get out safe.
And you hear that horrific eyewitness account, and there were so many people that were up close and personal with Charlie today and also witnessed this unimaginable tragedy. It will probably haunt them for the rest of their lives. We are here on the ground. We are talking to sources, taking information in from law enforcement, and we will update you with the latest. Back to you.
Okay, Matt, it must have been absolutely terrifying there on the ground during that event. I can't even imagine. Yeah. Thank you so much for that report. No. We'll be back to you later in the program. Charlie Kirk being remembered tonight across the country in Utah. Fans holding a vigil mourning the loss of the 31-year-old political activist.
Hearing that it was Charlie that was shot, my heart just immediately sank when the news came out that he didn't make it. It was devastating.
Devastating indeed. Joining us now live, former chief counsel for the House Judiciary Committee, Julian Epstein. Julian, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. You've certainly been around politics for a very long time. How do you characterize this assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Well, Anita, thank you for having me. It is a dark day, as you mentioned at the top of the broadcast. And I think, like tens of millions of Americans, I was devastated, horrified. And I think essentially because of 2 reasons. One is so many people on this network today have talked about the character of Charlie Kirk, the kind person, the decent, the great husband, the respectful person, the brilliant person. He was a person of extraordinary character. But I think secondly, Anita, it's because Charlie really represented the best in American politics. We live in an era now where people call their political opponents bad names. They call them Nazis and fascists and all these kinds of things. Charlie never did that. Charlie represented the best approach, which was the Socratic approach. He went into the lion's den, mostly progressives and universities, And by using simple questioning and dissecting the reasoning, he would often show that progressives had not really fully understood or fully thought out their own positions. And that is why a lot of people on the left really disliked him. There's nothing that a progressive likes less than finding out that they don't fully understand the implications of the policies that they advocate. But this was the best in American politics. This is how politics is supposed to be run, through respectful debate and examining the other person's arguments and showing them where their weaknesses are. And that's what Charlie did, and he's one of the only people in contemporary politics that really did that, and he certainly mastered that. And I was in awe of his work. I say that I'm a lifelong Democrat. I was in awe of his work. I think he was just somebody that showed the rest of us as to how politics should be conducted.
And Julian, we're at a real turning point here, it seems, in the country, to quote the name of Charlie's organization. Charlie was not one of those people who went on Twitter, as it was, X as it is, and insulted people and did anything. And he didn't do that in person either. He was, rightly as you say, somebody who engaged in debate, was respectful about it. He had very strong opinions and could express them in a very intellectual and forceful way, but he was always civilized about it. Where are we when we have seen an influential political figure killed for nothing more than having strong opinions?
Well, Jonathan, great to be on with you again. And I think you summed it up very well. And I think the answer is civilizational decline. Charlie never went to college, but he could take a Harvard Law School graduate and completely dissect them in terms of the logic of their argument in half a minute. I mean, Charlie was brilliant at doing that, and I think that's what made so many people on the left so angry about him. But, look, I think, Jonathan, what has happened, and we've talked about this before in various broadcasts, is when you continue to use terms like calling people fascists and Nazis and racists and phobic this, phobic that, you begin to, particularly in a social media era where everything gets echo chambered, and in some cases it's echo chambered by foreign actors, you give the radicals, you give the extremists permission slips to do bad things. That's why when we hear things like Jasmine Crockett saying, I want to take down Elon Musk, when you hear Democrats continually calling the president a fascist, not really understanding what the definition of that term is, you begin to move into a period of extremism and radicalism, and you permission slip the radicalism. And this is why all of the rhetoric that we've heard, you go back to the attempted assassinations on the president, Mangione, the horrible attack in Charlotte over the weekend. You can name a dozen instances. The shooting at the Catholic school. We're moving into a period of radicalization, particularly online. And what politicians have to understand is they're feeding this by using the language that they use sometimes, and they've just got to cut it out. Yeah. They are responsible for this environment. And Charlie, as you point out, Jonathan, never participated in any of that kind of garbage.
Just real quick, Julian, does any of that change? Do you see any of the rhetoric changing now? Real quick.
I hope so. I'd like to say I'm optimistic. I'm not, but I hope so. And I think if leaders in the Democratic Party want to be serious about this, they should step up and take some responsibility. And I think Republicans have to do the same. I think it happens on both sides. I've seen a little bit too much of it on the progressive left. You can go to the college campus protests on Israel. I can give you a dozen examples of that. And it's time for the leaders to step up, but I haven't seen any evidence of it yet.
Yeah, let's hope all our leaders step up in the wake of this awful event. Julian, nobody better than you to put it all in perspective for us. Thank you so much.